Now, it is hard enough to send your kids off to college, but sending them off during a pandemic is really stressful. Many students are heading back to campus now, and schools all over the country, including CU Boulder, are already reporting new cases of the virus. Our 9 health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli, joins us now to continue our discussion on health and schools. So, good morning. Let's start with this one. What's the biggest challenge with respect to the pandemic when it comes to college-age kids?
Good morning, Gary. We have been talking about elementary school kids and teaching them how to be safe, middle and high school kids and teaching them how to be compliant. When it comes to college kids, there's really 2 challenges. The first is teaching them how to be compliant, just like with middle and high school kids. But the bigger challenge, in my opinion, is really teaching them how to minimize their exposures, because that's where their risk primarily comes from. If you think about the life of an average college student, they're going to, lecture halls that are crowded. They're eating in dining halls that are crowded. They're living in dorms with many other people. They're going to study groups. They're going to bars. They're going to restaurants, and they're having parties. And in fact, what we've seen so far is that many of the colleges like UNC Chapel Hill, where there are having outbreaks, have been linked to parties, which sometimes are very difficult to avoid in the college atmosphere.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's going to be an issue all year. So for these kids who have frequent exposures, can testing be used as a strategy? And if so, how often do you think?
That is a great idea. In fact, that is what I would recommend to help manage this exposure risk. So in general, I would hope that more colleges are doing pool testing at least once a week to really try to screen those asymptomatic spreaders that are going around the colleges. But for individuals, you want to empower your college child to figure out where the testing is on campus and go often. And you want to try to go at least once a month, but sooner if you've had an exposure to somebody who's tested positive, sooner if you're going to see a vulnerable friend or family member, or sooner if you may have also had an exposure to somebody outside of your usual bubble.
So you mentioned earlier the dorms and the dining halls and the rec centers, places where people congregate. What can be done about that?
Yeah, this is a tough one. It's really very challenging because not only is the exposure very high in these settings, but contact tracing is nearly impossible because there's so many people coming and going. So I would say you really want to sit down with your college kid and talk to them about how to keep their guard up at all times. So the rec center, for example, I would avoid completely at this time because people are exercising, they're exhaling, there's generation of more aerosols, as we know, in environments where people are exercising. In the dining hall, they could carry out, or they could sit by an open window. In the dorm, I would recommend, getting a single dorm without a roommate, trying to minimize the number of people using the bathroom. So really just strategies to try to figure out how you can be exposed to as few people as possible.
It is a tough one for sure. Dr. Kohli, as always, we appreciate your input. Thanks.